Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Rundown. I'm your host, MaryCatherine, and today we're covering another breaking news topic that we got to see unfold live last week, and that is the Pope. So with me today are 8 News reporter and anchor Madison Moore and our assistant news director, Connor Nuckols. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We're excited.
So I probably should have written more things down because now I'm forgetting what day the actual new pope was chosen. Was it Thursday?
Thursday.
Last Thursday. Mm-hmm. So Madison, my lovely noon anchor.
Yes.
It happened in the middle of our show.
It did.
And something that day, I'm going to say Jesus told me to put the Pope package in the
B-block
portion of the show after the first break, because I was like, what if something happens? And so I did that. And we have these things in news called teases, where we tease to what's coming up after all the commercials. And we had a Pope tease. And in the middle of that Pope tease, I was like, oh my gosh, there's white smoke coming out of the Sistine Chapel. And it felt very surreal in that moment. And I do want to show the video really quick before we get into what that felt like for all of us kind of getting that breaking news in. So here it is.
At noon, it looks like white smoke is pouring out of the Sistine Chapel, which means a new pope has been chosen. So stick with us for updates. Very exciting. And if you're wondering what the different ropes...
So it was very quick. It was very sweet. It was to the point. And the journey leading up to that moment was not very relaxing. I remember, Madison, I was in your ear and I was on the phone with Connor. Can you guys describe in the moment what it felt like to kind of realize we had this historic moment happening and how we kind of worked together to get something in the show so people knew what was going on?
Absolutely. You want to take it first or me?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. It's funny. So one thing that you guys can't see on top of that video right there is in our control room, especially around the time they were trying to pick the Pope. There were so many cameras of people gathered just outside of St. Peter's Basilica, and then when the smoke was coming up, we could see that. So we're in the control room, losing our mind, or we're in the newsroom going crazy, and it was kind of like, oh man, I remember getting the call from MaryCatherine, and I was just like, oh, where are you at in your show? And like you said, just like, oh, okay, we're in a break, so we actually have time to produce something up and get this done. But it was just funny. I remember your B block was all Pope related too, so it was just all that had to go out the window. And but it was also a testament, MC, to your producing skills, because I remember sitting there being like, okay, what do you need from me? And you're like, oh, no, I got this. And she writes up the script for Madison just on the fly. And I thought you guys handled that situation quite lovely. But yeah, there was like, whenever you get breaking news like that, there's that brief moment of like, oh, deer in headlights,
like,
panic moment.
What's going to happen? Yeah.
And I specifically, I've only been anchoring for a little over a year now. And so I always tell myself in those situations, just remain calm. Because if you feel like, oh, like, what am I going to say? You kind of just got to go with it. But thankfully, MC did have like a little prompt in there for me to say. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we handled it pretty well. And communication was there. And I think that's always the key with breaking news, because what you guys don't see, you don't see the behind the scenes stuff. You just see obviously what's on the TV. So I thought we handled it pretty well.
Yeah. I remember we have these things where we can cut into our programming by going to network with ABC called special reports. And I was like, there has got to be a special report. We have a new Pope.
They've been waiting for that moment.
Yes, we had been waiting for, I guess, the whole week. The conclave had started. We were like, oh, super secret. Like, we can't wait to like talk about, just like project and kind of predict who will be the next leader of the Catholic Church. And we had all these analysts like weighing in on, oh, if he comes out wearing this color, it might mean this. And if he chooses this name, it might be this. And so it was a really big, I was joking with you guys just a minute ago, it was kind of my introduction to Catholicism, because I'm not super familiar. I grew up with some people who were Catholic, but we never like dove deep, and we had a Pope at that point. So I wasn't really tuning into, oh, what's the Pope up to, until we didn't have a Pope and now we needed another one.
Right.
And so I think something that was really kind of nerve-wracking for me was I had this big Pope section of that the portion of the show, and I was like, okay, so that's 2 minutes now that I do not have any news for. Please, Lord, bring us a special report on the Pope. And I remember our master control operator, Lou, came in and he was on the phone, and I was like, you got a special report for me? Like, I really hope you do.
Yes.
He was like, I'm actually on the phone now. Do we want to go to a special report? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's the Pope. Like, I feel like we should definitely cut in so people can like see live there, because we were able to have that one live camera that we just saw a minute ago of the chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel. But it was, I mean, it was so limited because we didn't really, the only information we had was white smoke Pope.
Right.
And that's what we had to work with.
Because obviously when, you know, the Pope comes out, that's when we know who it is and where they're from and all the things. So
yeah, and obviously, you know, we're not in Italy, we're not on the scene,
right.
To get extra information. So that's why that special report was just so valuable, because, you know, David Muir was there, you know, leading the show for ABC, and they were able to, you know, get other priests just to get some more perspective on like what's going on and the process of everything. So that special report was quite literally a lifesaver.
Yeah, it was
very cool to watch too, because I remember when Pope Francis was announced, I think I was in middle school, and
yeah, I think
that
it was
a huge
2013.
deal. Yeah, it was a really long time ago. So it was cool to just kind of see it unfold again, because how many popes are we going to see, you know, get elected in our lifetime?
Yeah.
So that was cool.
That was my, like, a perfect lead into my next question, is just that I feel like this is one of those big, like, breaking news national moments that I was able to be a part of. And I was talking to my fiance the other day, and I was like, our kids one day, like, might ask me, like, where were you when the new Pope was chosen? I'll be able to tell them, like, I was in the booth, I was breaking the news for Central Virginia, and being able to share that with them. What does that feel like for you guys? And are there other moments during your journalism careers where you've been part of those moments and know that when you're 80 years old, you'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, here's where I was when so-and-so happened?
For sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like, so this is my third Pope.
Your third Pope.
Fancy.
Yeah, I'm wearing a hat
big
for a
deal.
reason, hiding some gray hairs. But yeah, no, I remember the first time it happened. That was when John Paul II died, and Pope Benedict XVI was coming in, and it was a similar situation to you, Madison. You know, I was just a young gun, didn't really know what was going on. I was like, okay, they're just getting a new leader. But it really hit me the next time when Benedict XVI stepped down, and then we were going through that process again. But that was when it kind of hit me. It was just like, wow, this impacts more than just Catholics. Like, this really does impact everybody in some shape or form. Because, like, when you think religion, that's really the only, like, big religious figure I think most people can name off the top of their head. So this isn't just you know, just some special coverage because, you know, the network decided that it needed to be covered. Like, this is something that literally impacts everybody, and everyone is going to be having that "where were you" moment. So yeah, for me, those moments, I was in school, and then I was in college during the second one, and yeah, now I have the privilege of, you know, being in the newsroom as they're selecting a new one. So it was definitely an experience I'm going to remember for a while until the next one's chosen, probably. So.
Very cool. I'm going to use your term, young gun. I am a young gun. So I would say this is definitely my first big national breaking news. Absolutely. And I love that we were all a part of it together. And so, like you said, 10 years down the line, if anyone asks, I'm like, yep, I was behind the desk breaking this.
You were reading my script full of typos that you gracefully read around.
We work well together, so I knew exactly what you were trying to say.
Yes, you know exactly how to read
Do we have
around
a picture
my...
of that script?
Oh my gosh.
So funny. I think there were lots
Do we
of
have a picture of
typos.
that script?
But another thing I
wish.
learned too, just kind of, you know, looking back, just saying what you see, you know, like I didn't even know if I even needed the prompt. You know, I should have just, you know, spoke from the heart, spoke what I saw.
Looking back on it, would you have done something differently? And what would it what would that look like?
Yeah, I think, obviously when there's breaking news, you can kind of freeze. And I think maybe I froze a little bit, but I should have just kind of just kept going with what I saw, because I did know some terminology. So, but not too much, I don't think. But it was definitely cool.
I do have a not a picture, but I have the script. It's ridiculous. So it says, "New at non." That's supposed to be noon. "It appear white smoke is pouring out of the Sistine Chapel, which means a poop has been chosen. Stick with us for updates." So gracefully, Madison was able to read around that and get the gist of what was going on. It was not a poop, and it was not non. It was the Pope at noon.
The Pope.
But again,
we made it work.
Yeah, you guys made it work, and that's the point of our industry, right? Like, we're gonna get breaking news stories like that, and I think it's just a testament to both of you guys handling that situation great. The fact that you got that script in time and gave her something to read, and and that you were able to just pinpoint what she actually meant instead of doing the Ron Burgundy thing and just reading exactly that's on the screen right there. No, it's a testament to both your guys' skill levels, and you guys should be proud. So
right, thank you. I think the really cool thing about when we do have this type of like breaking national story is then we get to kind of unpack it for the next couple of like weeks or days sometimes, depending on the impact it has. And I think something we've been able to do is go to like local just locals and ask them what they're feeling about the new Pope. Connor, maybe you could touch on this a little bit more, but having been in the industry longer, but what does it mean when you have this type of national story? What does it mean to localize it so that people here at home who maybe, even though it is such a big thing that does impact many people, like for those who might say like, I don't really care about the Pope, like what does it mean when we localize this type of story?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's funny when these kind of stories hit like the local news station. Our whole shtick is just to cover like the local news and just bring you the news that's near you and impacting you. But every now and then these kind of stories come up, and there's a vibe in the newsroom, especially when we're about to go into a meeting, and everyone is just kind of like, they know what we're about to say, and they know that their shows and their plans are going out the door because this is now the story of the day. And that was a similar situation, but it was also kind of a curveball for our staff because we had already had our morning meeting. We already made plans, and then this happened. So we're kind of like, oh boy, okay, get rid of some stuff, make more room for the Pope. And we were actually pretty fortunate. We had one photog who was kind of freed up that day, and Brad, shout out to Brad Vassar, and he actually went to the Catholic Archdiocese here in town in Richmond, and turned a wonderful package on the situation, and he got great sound. There was one guy who said like, he heard the news, rode his bike, went all the way to church just to be, in amongst the diocese. But no, I think again that's just a testament of how those national stories trickle down and impact our market right there. Because now we had a local story we were talking about with the local Catholic priests and cardinals in town, and because this is also going to direct them, because the Pope also more or less dictates leadership within the church as well too. So to be able to like on a whim just get that local sound from not only just like the local leadership in the church, but to get local people willing to share their stories was fantastic.
And me and Brad were actually working together that morning, and then I had to do something else. That's why he was freed up, and he was talking to me, and he was like, oh my gosh, I got to go get sound for a Pope story for the evening shows. And I was like, that's so exciting. So now you get to be a part of it too. So I knew, he was really excited about it to do it himself. So like,
Brad's always excited to do.
He's that guy
anything.
that goes the extra mile for everything.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
He's one of those people that I love working with because he's just always so passionate about anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
He takes a special care with everything he touches, and it comes out.
And it's
for
worth
sure.
noting, like Madison said, I just told him to go get like a quick sound right there. Like I didn't realize like when he got there, he was going to get enough for a package. And so when I think our producer Megan that night, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a package. Like, this is great." Like, so
That sounds just like Megan.
yeah.
Are there more Pope stories? I feel like, I mean, I ran this warning that he officially took over the Vatican social media handles, which hasn't happened by a Pope. Usually the Vatican kind of curates things and posts things for the Pope, but he posted on Instagram and Facebook, and I think the line was like, "Peace be with you all," and it was in like a bunch of different languages. And so I guess my question is, we kind of got the big news out of the way. He's the big guy in charge now, and that seems almost like with a lot of breaking news situations that's the end of it. But are there more Pope stories, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just curious to see where he's gonna live,
Mm.
because I
Yeah.
think Pope Francis
Yeah.
he chose not to live in the palace.
Yeah, he chose not to live in the palace. That's true.
So that's a big thing. I guess people are wondering where he's gonna live.
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, just like, every pope handles things differently. So Pope
Mm-hmm.
Francis, he was a very modest pope, right? He didn't want to sit on the throne, didn't want to live in the palace. Like, even the shoes, he didn't really care for. And then donates the Pope Mobile at the towards the end there. So, he was there's a reason they call him the People's Pope. He was very modest, just wanted to be a regular person. And I was reading stories when he died. He would sneak away from security just to go talk with people and just be a common dude, and his security would be like, "No, you're the Pope. You can't do that."
Right.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how what direction he goes in. And I mean, especially, he's already I feel like he's got a target on his back being from America a little bit. So I feel like any decision he makes is going to be, amplified tenfold by maybe media from other countries, or even just here. So it will be interesting. It'll be something that I think we follow pretty much throughout his reign as Pope.
I feel like especially there's going to be a lot more like Pope memes coming out because he's an American Pope. I feel like when it was announced, everyone in Chicago was like, "Yo, Chicago!"
Right. They've been waiting for this moment.
Yes.
Like, finally.
There were all of these memes of him like in Chicago, like superimposed into pictures.
Right.
And I feel like America has this special talent of coming up with those types of memes for like leadership. I mean, we see them with the president and with lawmakers all the time. So I feel like that's something that I'll be following. It's just like, oh, what's the new Pope meme?
Yes. Or what's his family doing? Because I know there's so many, interviews of his brothers speaking about it. And honestly, it really humanizes him.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And it was awesome just to hear his, stories growing up and how he, would play Pope as a kid.
Aww.
And his brothers, you could just tell they were so happy for him. But it's also like a bittersweet thing because, now he is Pope. Probably there's gonna be less communication, less, visits if they did that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, especially I was talking about that when Pope Francis died. When Pope Francis, he was one of like the most traveled popes of all time. He went to, I think, only John Paul II and maybe one other did more visits to other countries than him. And he was from Argentina, I believe, Pope Francis was. And the amount of times he went to South America and then, just kind of immediately had to go back to the Vatican, I would just sit there and wonder, I was like, man, that's got to be tough. Like going to another country and being so close to home and not being able to stop by, visit your family. So yeah, that'll definitely be a trial that he'll be going through throughout his reign.
And that's something I would be interested in knowing. I mean, talking to the Pope about what this means, like the level of separation he now has in a way, but also this new level of connection he has with so many other people that aren't his family, and what that looks like for him. I'm sure there's like a level of grief almost, but also a level of celebration and joy and like responsibility and duty. I feel like that would be something really interesting. I would love to hear about too.
In one of the interviews with one of his brothers, you could kind of hear, the reporter ask a question and then him kind of take it in and like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. Like you said, grief. It's like, oh, I still have my brother, but I'm almost losing him in a sense of that personal connection of like talking all the time if they did that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it.
Yes.
I think that's everything that I had. Was there anything we didn't touch that you guys want to get to?
No.
He's rooting for the Knicks. I think he went to Villanova, and
yeah.
like all the Villanova players play on the Knicks now. So yeah,
Yeah.
You got the Pope to thank for that, New York
Yeah.
Knicks fans.
Excited to see his next steps. And we'll be following along for sure.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. We'll see you next time.